Imagine this, you sit down to play a cozy little puzzle game. You're placing hexagons, vibing in a warm living room, when suddenly, strange symbols start appearing. The timer begins counting down, the pressure builds, and then you hear a distant knock from inside the game. Yeah, my game almost turned into a horror story, and today I'm going to tell you how that happened. Let's rewind a bit. This game started with a simple goal: make a chill, satisfying puzzle experience. No stress, no rush. Just a cozy table, a warm glow, and a bunch of hexagonal pieces waiting to be placed. So, I did that, I made my cozy puzzle game and had people playtest it. The reception was great, but in the back of my mind, a little voice kept whispering, "It's just a puzzle game." You know that feeling when you've been working on something for so long that you start thinking, this needs more? Yeah, that was me. Feature creep at its finest. But I kept pushing it away, telling myself to stick to my goal. Until I didn't. At some point, I started looking more seriously at my niche market, and I realised my potential slice of success was tiny, but did that even matter? My goal wasn't necessarily to make a hit, it was just to make a PC game. Still, I couldn't shake the thought. And after a few days of back and forth with some friends, we started talking about a hidden story I had written in the background. A mystery. A story that wasn't really that bad, and in my imagination it made sense to add a bit more tension, purpose, and some deeper reason why you are solving these puzzles. And that's when the spiral began. I told myself, let's just prototype it. Just a little experiment. So then came 2 weeks of crunching, learning shaders at a different level to get what I wanted, and refining a story that got creepier by the page. And suddenly, I had a completely different game. Ideas kept coming, and coming, and coming. I fell into the classic trap of overscoping, but I told myself it was fine. It was just a prototype. And then, because apparently I just couldn't help myself, I thought, what if you weren't just solving puzzles, but saving someone? And that's how Grandpa entered the picture. In this version, the puzzles weren't just puzzles anymore. They were warnings and a way to do rituals, right there, in your living room. Grandpa was trapped, and solving hexagons was the only way to free him before time ran out. At some point, I stepped back and asked myself the crucial question every game developer should ask. Wait, what am I making? One moment, I had a relaxing puzzle game. The next, I had a psychological thriller where Grandpa was doomed to an unknown fate if you didn't solve it fast enough. Now, don't get me wrong, I love a good horror game, but that's not what I set out to create, and nothing says cozy less than existential dread. So, I finished the new demo and sent it to people who had played the original cozy version. Their reaction? They didn't dislike it, but were confused about why I made the changes in the first place, basically asking what was wrong with the cozy version. Which is a fair question. What was wrong with the cozy version? I started to realise the trap I got myself into. Not only did the game change its genre, I had to redo the whole Steam page, description, tags, and for what. The reception of the cozy puzzle game was much better than the horror one. So literally a day before the Steam page went live, I decided to revert everything. I took a step back and made some changes. The sigils? Gone. Grandpa? He's fine. For now. No weird disappearances, no mysterious letters. He has a purpose, but you'll find out in the final game. I may keep the timer mechanic, but only as an optional challenge. No life or death stakes, just a fun twist for those who like a little pressure. And instead of a horror narrative, I fully leaned into the cozy aesthetic. Now, the game feels like a warm hug, no hidden threats, no jump scares, just good vibes. So, what did I take away from all this? It's very easy to overscope, and if you don't keep your focus, you might end up making a completely different game. Also, discipline matters. You can explore new ideas, but they need to make sense within your vision. You don't have to ignore creative impulses, just make sure they actually align with your game. That being said, I'm not throwing away the horror idea completely. Maybe, just maybe, I'll bring it back as a Halloween event. If any of you wanted to experience that version of the game, well, stay tuned. It might come creeping back this autumn. So that's the story of how my cozy game almost became a horror game. A little too much ambition, a little too much what if, and suddenly I was making something completely different. But in the end, I reeled it back in, stayed true to my vision, and most importantly, learned a lot. Now, I want to hear from you. Would you have played the horror version of my game? Or do you prefer the cozy vibes? Let me know in the comments. And hey, if you're curious about how this game turns out, make sure to play the demo and wishlist it on Steam. And maybe you'll get to see a creepy version return for Halloween. Until next time, keep puzzling, stay cozy, and don't let your feature creep turn into a horror story.